Banking Lesson 4, Comparing Banking Options. In this lesson, we're going to be comparing banks, credit unions, and online banks in 5 different categories to see how they stack up against each other. The big question is, which one is the better choice for you to use? A big bank, a credit union, or an online bank? The first category is physical presence. Big banks are everywhere with thousands of branches and ATMs. They're practically on every corner, which is going to make them the clear winner in this category. Credit unions might only have one location in your community, or they could have multiple. Credit unions are typically regional, and they don't have as many locations as a big bank would. Sometimes they're near where you live, and other times they're on the opposite side of town and they're not the most convenient to access. So, for example, I personally love to spend money, and I know that about myself. My wife is a way better saver than I am. I actually have to talk her into spending money. Knowing my own money habits, we use a credit union for all of our savings accounts, and then we have a different bank for our bills and spending accounts. Because we separate our money and we use a credit union that's on the other side of town, it's a lot less tempting for me to spend that money. Lastly, if physical presence doesn't matter to you at all, then online banks might be your thing. They don't have any physical locations and everything is done online. The next category is technology. This is going to be all about your mobile banking experience. The best mobile banking options give you access to your financial services anytime you want. You can access banking apps from your phone or tablet and complete most common tasks like checking your account balance, transferring money, or finding nearby ATMs. You can also deposit checks by taking a photo. Online banks are typically the winner for the best mobile banking experiences. Online banks are going to be known for their apps, websites, and mobile options. These technology features are meant to help you bypass having to go into a physical branch. Online banks are going to be on the cutting edge of technology when it comes to your banking services. They typically have a fast, modern, and easy to use online banking experience. They tend to have the most up-to-date technology features like sending somebody money, bill pay, transferring money between accounts, checking your credit score at any time, plus a lot more, all within just a couple swipes or taps. Big banks are a very close second place. It's pretty hard to beat technology-driven online banks because that's their thing. The banking apps big banks use tend to be really user-friendly as well. They can do almost anything that an online bank can do. The technology gap between online banks and big banks used to be a lot bigger a few years ago, but the gap has been closing as big banks continue to dump more money into their online banking apps and platforms. Credit unions have come a long way with improving their online banking services. Credit unions are not-for-profit organizations, so they typically don't have the same operating budget as a big bank, which means they don't have as much money to develop apps and their online banking sites. They also don't have the same focus on technology that an online bank needs to have. They focus more on their competitive edge, which is their in-person customer service. The third category is fees and interest rates. Online banks are easily going to be the winner here. Online banks don't have to pay for the expensive overhead costs like rent that credit unions and banks have to pay for. They also don't have to pay for the employees to staff all those locations. And due to these savings, online banks can afford to not collect as many fees from their customers. They also tend to have the highest interest rates on their savings accounts. This is going to attract a lot of people because most banks have terrible interest rates on their savings accounts. The low fees and high interest rates on savings accounts are the online bank specialty where they beat out all of their competition. Credit unions are non-profit and reinvest their would-be profits back into their community. This allows them to give better interest rates on their savings accounts and lower fees than a traditional big bank. Big banks come in last. This is where big banks make billions of dollars every year in profit. They typically charge fees for your checking account, each savings account, as well as a slew of other fees if you're not careful with how you set up your accounts. Pretty much fees for everything. Over the last 20 years, Bank of America has paid over $80 billion, it's with a B, in fines for a series of financial scandals. In 2021, they paid $75 million to to settle a lawsuit accusing them of charging their customers overdraft fees on their checking and savings accounts that weren't even legit. They aren't the only bank to do this. They've just paid double the fines of any other bank, and they've been making the headlines for doing it. I'm not saying don't bank with Bank of America. The reason I'm using them as an example is because it's something that you should be aware of. Banks are a business. They're about profit above everything else. And ironically, the customers who pay most of these fees are the ones who are already struggling the most financially. The fourth category is ATMs. This one is hard to determine because it depends on where you live and how much you use an ATM. If you use your big bank's ATM, you don't get charged a fee. However, if you use anybody else's ATM other than your bank's, you're going to get hit with a hefty fee. Big banks typically have the most ATMs available wherever you're at. Most online banks have a network of ATMs that you can use for free since they don't have a physical branch that you can actually go into and make a withdrawal. And then you've got credit unions. They also have a large co-op ATM network with up to 30,000 locations that are supported throughout the nation that don't charge a fee if you use any of those ATMs. So both online banks and credit unions often reimburse ATM fees to customers if they're going to be using out-of-network ATMs. Some big banks will reimburse a limited number of fees as well. Not everybody cares about customer service or expects the same things, so this is all going to come down to a matter of personal preference. Online banks' customer service takes place over the phone or through a chat box online. Some people might love that, and others might hate not being able to talk face-to-face with somebody. Credit unions are known for being friendly and personal. They're the ones that are going to have the popcorn and the cookies in the lobby and decorate for every holiday. And then you got big banks, which are often associated with lacking personality because they're all going to look the same inside. They don't usually decorate for holidays, and their customer service is known for not always being the greatest. We can't tell you which type of bank is the best option for you because we don't know you or your situation in life. But that's the whole point of this lesson, is to get you thinking about what you care about and how you think you're going to use your bank account. In this video, we compare the differences between banks and credit unions and online banks. Each has their advantages and disadvantages. None of them is a clear-cut winner across the board. The services and features that you value most and your personal preferences will determine which kind of bank is the best fit. We've included a PDF comparison chart in the download section that'll give you a quick glance at everything that we covered in the lesson, which takes us to the next lesson where we're going to help you choose the right bank for you.